Godfellas was written by Ken Keeler, one of the people instrumental to Futurama's creation and success. Keeler has a PhD in mathematics, and in fact, this is true, is responsible for the actual math theorem called the Futurama theorem, because it was created for the episode The Prisoner of Benda to solve the situation that he'd written the characters into, proving mathematically that so long as there were two people who never switched minds, that no matter how many people who had previously been switched, you could then put them all back even if they could never directly swap with each other a second time. Suffice to say, his work is known for being able to engage with deeper matters and still incorporate comedy. We'll see how this unfolds in Godfellas. We open with a Planet Express ship under attack by space pirates.
You know, pirates, but in space!
As you can imagine, this is a serious threat, which is why Bender is taking a nap. Since no one will stop fighting for their lives for his convenience, he heads off to the torpedo tube to find some quiet. During a battle, you can get fired for that. See? They try a rescue, but they were traveling at top speed, so firing Bender away means he'd be flying faster than they were already going, so there's no catching up with him. He's going to be adrift forever, with only a tiny piano and a candelabra for company.
O cruel fate, to be thusly boned! Ask not for whom the bone bones, it bones for thee.
Bender passes the time until passing through a shower of asteroids, one of which lodges in his torso. Turns out tiny people have a tiny civilization on this tiny rock, and seeing the situation, they figure they should give Bender a good worshipping. He does nothing to dissuade them. While obviously only Bender could find himself in this predicament, he's especially suited for this setup, as a character who is typically selfish and with little regard for flesh and blood beings. The fact he laughs evilly at their presumption that he's their god says it all, really. While others may greet this with trepidation at best or confusion at worst, Bender greets this as the bright spot on this endless trip to oblivion. If someone enjoys the idea of playing God, you probably don't want them to actually get the role. Bender snatches one of them, Malachi, and after trying to mug him, he realizes his worshippers are dirt poor. So he issues the one commandment: make him booze. Back on Earth, the professor can't locate Bender with the smelloscope, so it seems there's no way to rescue him. After a replacement for Bender, Helper shows up and is the winner of the most likely to be placed next to a very large magnet after 5 minutes of talking to him. We move on to Bender once again. In endless space, Bender lets Malachi know they've done a good job with the liquor, only to notice that he's lost his arm. Many of these tiny folks were actually seriously injured trying to make that brewery, killed by its fumes, or attacked by the organized crime that shows up around liquor by spontaneous generation. Bender actually feels bad that these people were so invested in satisfying his wants that they paid with injury or even death. If that's what it took to please him, they were willing to do it. He's so moved he actually sheds tears, which causes a flood. Malachi's son is placed in moral peril from that, but when his number one follower pleads for salvation, Bender delivers. This drives the faithful to offer up their prayers, and Bender decides, why not? Except his miracles just make things worse. Let's just say it gets worse after that. Appropriately, Fry turns to religion in an attempt to get Bender back. The Amalgamated Church is a whole lot of nothing, but going to see a fortune-teller robot, who, after trying to scam him, sets him on a path to the monks of Deshuva, who have a big-ass, big ear, trying to hear for God out there in the universe. And maybe it hasn't found God, but maybe it can find someone who thinks he is. Speaking of which, Malachi needs to talk to Bender. Seems there is a settlement on his back, and they no longer believe in him since their prayers go unheeded, which honestly might be for the best. Now these unbelievers plan to attack Bender's faithful followers.
I beseech thee, rise up against them. Smite someone who deserves it for once.
Bender says getting involved will just make things worse. They need to settle this matter themselves. Except how they choose to settle it is nuclear missiles, in order to count the infidels' atomic bombs. And, well, that leads to mutual destruction. None of the tiny people survive. As a grief-stricken Bender floats on, he finds an intelligent galaxy that might, in fact, be God. or a computerized space probe that collided with God, though I think the Almighty could have likely ducked. Back on Earth, a Sherpa leads Fry and Lita to the monastery with their giant radio telescope, diligently looking for God and then planning to send him a message, a short prayer, through the little walkie-talkie thingy. Fry tries to get permission to use it, is refused, so he insists, backed up by Lita's ability to kick the ass of anyone there is. They're stuffed in the laundry room while Fry gets to work. As for Bender, he swaps stories with a fellow divine being.
You know, I was God once.
Yes, I saw. You were doing well until everyone died.
This is when the episode really gets philosophical, as it considers Bender's experience as a way of meditating on the existence of God. We will stop and explore the concepts this episode presents. The point of the Lord helps those who help themselves is what comes up. A joke about a man in a flood. A jeep forging the water offers him a ride, but he says, "No, God will save me." The water gets higher, a couple fishermen come by offering to help, same thing. A Coast Guard patrol, a helicopter, always, "No, God will save me." And then he drowns and asks why God didn't save him. And God says, "I sent a jeep, I sent a boat." That's the touch the episode provides here, that being God requires a light touch. When you intercede too much, people expect you to solve all their problems. It's like in Isaac Asimov's works, like The End of Eternity and Robots and Empire. Without needing to overcome problems, humanity slips into ennui. We need to have challenges in our lives. At the same time, doing nothing leaves those who need a supreme being in their lives without hope. You don't need to believe in God to have hope, obviously, but for many people, believing that they are not alone, that their suffering is not being witnessed by an uncaring universe, that someone is on their side, that gives the hope to see them through. The episode is saying that a God that stands by never doing anything at all will cause that hope to fade. And hope, regardless of the source, even if you believe that source is based upon a lie. Nevertheless, hope is very powerful. Without hope, those problems I mentioned lead to self-destruction. God notes to Bender the balance requires a light touch, like a pickpocket or a safecracker.
Or a guy who burns down a bar for the insurance money.
Yes, if you make it look like an electrical thing.
I have to include that because not only is that line funny, but it makes the point. If it looks like a bar burned down due to an electrical fire, you don't know whether or not it just happened or if there was someone quietly taking action to make it happen. That, it asserts, is why you don't know if the jeep, boat, or helicopter just turned up or if God had a hand in it, because the hand works best if you don't know whether it was there or not. Enough to suspect, but not enough to be sure. The triumph of the human spirit is not action in the face of certain success. It's perseverance when nothing is certain. Ours is an intelligence dropped into a mysterious world, armed with logic and reason to try to figure out the rules as we go. Yet sometimes we need a bridge to cross mental chasms that we never could have otherwise. You don't need spiritual faith for that. But for many, that is what provides it. But we all need something.
Let us out! We cooked our shoes in the dryer and ate them! Now we're bored!
Fry needs Bender, but it's hopeless. They've spent 700 years searching the heavens and found Bubkiss. Now Fry is trying to find one measly robot. However, the radio sends out his lamentation that he wishes he had Bender back, and God hears and sends Bender back, who frees the monks from their laundry room prison because he can't count on God to do things for you. While we know that, in fact, that's exactly what just happened. What's especially notable about this episode is how it explores a philosophical topic with so little philosophy and so much demonstration. A tiny amount of telling punctuates a whole lot of showing, and because it's in the showing, the episode doesn't stop being a comedy. That's an extremely sophisticated skill, benefiting from Futurama's comfort with dark comedy. Bender accidentally setting people on fire with his miracles and then blowing them out into space trying to put it out is a prime example, showing that if you had the power of a god but lacked the wisdom and intelligence of one, even your good intentions can end badly. However, it then goes a step further in saying essentially that if you had that wisdom and intelligence, you would know when it's better not to. But that's a small expansion, and built into, as established, a joke in and of itself. This episode has received much praise, and it's easy to see why it ranks near the top or at the top of a celebrated show's history.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
There. Now when I'm found in a million years, people will know what the score was.